Hello and welcome to our Friday check-in. So this week did not go exactly as I thought it would. This is not shocking. It is going to give us a good opportunity though to see the importance of process goals and not just product goals. I am just going to grab a highlighter here and we're going to go through this list together. I've done more than 0 things on here, but I just kind of want to, in an effort to be accountable, I want to actually go through this with you and show you, not every week is what you think it's going to be. Okay, so reading 5 from the proposal list. Actually, why don't we start on this other side and then we will go back. So reading the 5, I didn't do any of this. I prepared all of the pieces, so I have them ready to go. But these 5 are actually on a different project than the one I'm currently working on. They're in relationship to my chapters on perception, which is not my chapters on narrativism. So I ended up working a lot down here on the narrativism chapter. So it's been revised and it was sent. This really took up my whole week for writing, for everything. So we did not do any of this, and I did it consciously. I worked a lot on writing, and I could have subbed these in, but my narrativism chapter, if you remember from my last video, is top priority, so I just subbed that for all else. This is going to screw up my plan. I wanted to get through my proposal reading list sooner. It's going to be at least a week later than I originally wanted it to, but this is also permissible so far as I'm concerned because I got through the major thing I needed to, and as most grad students can tell you, it's a trap to get stuck in reading. These things are interesting to read. I'm actually very excited to read a lot of them, especially the Becky's stuff, but it's a trap to get involved in reading and going through other people's ideas at the expense of developing your own. So that happened. That was a conscious decision. There it is. Okay, so for the other thing, I was supposed to be working on research, revising the paper. Well, I did turn my advisor's comments into a to-do list, but that's as far as I got. So I kind of went through those. I've got a sense of where I need to be focused. But like I said, I was working on the narrativism chapter up until Friday. I managed to send it off, which was fortunate and lucky, but that was the whole show. So none of those. Revised teaching statement. So I did do this. I reviewed the professors, and so I did not integrate the feedback. And this was because I actually decided to take a different direction with the teaching statement. I don't actually know if I like the current version of the teaching statement, but I wanted to do something that was more different based on the information the professors in, which basically that suggested you should have a coherent picture of kind of who you are as a scholar. So my research is in non-Western philosophy. I thought it might make sense to evoke some of the things that influence my teaching from non-Western philosophy. I'm not sure I like the product, but we've tried that. So I have a new draft, there you go. Prep classes. So I have basically gotten through 3.5 sessions, so that's just a half box. The very end of the 4th class, I did not get to finish. This is largely not because I didn't put in the time for these things, but when I originally created my reading, like the readings I thought we would go through, I picked some readings that I wasn't quite sure how I felt about, but I just wanted to have like a starting point when I was working on the PowerPoint, and it required significant revisions. I basically decided to ditch some of the things that I originally thought we would read in favor of some kind of easier to digest material. And I had to think carefully about what things to emphasize in the PowerPoint. So the result of all this is just, I didn't quite finish this week, which I think is fine. I'm very close. I'm not too upset about that. I did not work in the Poland insert because that was like a bonus and there was no time. And I did not do the expense report. I mostly just decided, in light of how much energy and effort this guy was taking me, this is gonna happen next week, which is fine in terms of money and stuff. Okay, so let's go over here. Read 5 from the list. Well, we didn't even do 1, so not that. Revised narrativism. Yes, we did that. Now, on this one, I wrote begin the revisions. I did actually begin it because I digested write Jeff's comments into a to-do list, so I did begin. Figured out the weekend, went to the doctor's appointment, did the GOA stuff. I did not prep for classes, so I can't mark that off. Okay, so the week doesn't look super great from a checking boxes off thing, but I want to show you guys that I don't rely exclusively on checking off these kind of product-oriented boxes. I'm not sure if I've shared this on the channel before, but if we just go over here, you can see under here it says summer 2018. These are like my sketches for my day's work by POMO. Each box is a POMO. So I'm supposed to be spending between 6 and 7 POMOs each day on writing, and then I divide the other part of the day up into different things depending on how stuff's going. So what I want to bring your attention to though is up here. This is my June sticker. It's got how many minutes I've worked. So this June, right, I went to Poland, so there was some days there where, an entire week in fact, where I did nothing. That happens when you're traveling. That's just fine. I wonder if I can zoom in a little for you guys, because I know it's not giant. There we go. Okay. There we go. Now you can see that sucker. Okay, so I put X's through days that I intentionally took time off, and lines through days where I just worked out where I didn't take time off. So I almost always try to take the weekend off. But as you can see this week, we've got Monday I worked 209 minutes, Tuesday I worked 70 minutes, Wednesday I worked 307 minutes, Thursday I worked 358, Friday 444. This was largely because there were a couple meetings that I counted. I often count meetings when I can. And then Saturday, spoiler alert, I'm not recording this on Friday. On Saturday I also worked 120 minutes. So there was one day there that was very weak. This was just a complicated day, that's why that happened. I didn't meet my 350 minute goal each day. I didn't expect myself to do that this week because I was re-entering from my trip. But as you can see, even with all of that said, I worked 1,508 minutes this week. The last week in June that I was working real seriously, I did slightly more than that, 1,603. And when we're feeling a little bit nervous about how this compares, I actually have this little chart I made. I'm not sure it's picking up really well. It's got these gold boxes. But one way I figure out, like, okay, so, you know, if we go back over here and I'm looking at this list and, you know, I'm saying like, man, this is a crap week. You know, I look at all the things I didn't check off. What am I doing with my life? Okay, this week I did something very important because I submitted the chapter, but if we just look at the boxes, it's depressing. So what we're gonna do is then say, okay, all right. So I calculated this. I saw how many minutes I worked. I was like, okay, that seems like a lot for June. Not the most, but a lot. So then let's like go back and look at the semester. So in January, I wasn't breaking 1,000 minutes. February, I wasn't, none of these months. January, February, March, April, not until May. So these first few months of the year, there was no week where I broke 1,000 minutes. In May, 2 weeks, I broke 1,000 minutes. One of those weeks I worked less than I did this week in June. And then we have just our June statistics over here. Okay, so this wasn't great, but you know, I really did well in terms of minutes. I worked more minutes this week than hardly any other week. You know, with the exception of a couple, 3 weeks of the year. So whatever, what this list says, I have this concrete data that I use to help me understand really how I'm doing and how I've been going. And this was a good week, no matter how many or how few boxes got checked. So I just wanted to explain that to you guys, show you a little bit about, it's not good to just be super product oriented. I love checking off boxes, but it's important to keep your process in mind. And I just thought you guys would benefit from that. So if you haven't tried it, I suggest setting some process goals for yourself and keeping track, because it can make a big difference. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. I'll check you guys out on Monday. Bye-bye.